Welcome or welcome back. Tisha here for what is the last part of the reunion special for Married to Medicine. This is part 3. I feel like they could have did this in 2 parts. There will be parts that I do not talk about. If you want to discuss it, put it down below because they really sat here and had an entire segment about a man who did not appear on this show all season. We find out that Apollo was invited by Phaedra because the wives had so many questions, and she figured the same way how she did with Quad that she could bring him so that they can ask him those questions. I feel like the reason why she really did this was because if she didn't bring him, what else did she really have to discuss concerning her other than the whole Greg situation, which I have a lot to say about that. We're going to get to it later on. Toya says he has risen. Toya was really excited. There was a lot of eyes and a lot of teeth when it came to looking at Apollo. Apollo is an attractive man. I'm not going to say he's not attractive, but I don't feel like he's worth all the hype. Even Andy was gushing over him. Toya says, my issue was never with Phaedra. I just asked the question about Apollo because we didn't see him around, even at, her son's party. And whenever I asked anything about him, she would either take offense to it or she would get defensive, which they show some clips where she was evasive in her responses. So Apollo claims that his relationship with Phaedra is impeccable. I wouldn't say that because if you weren't there for that 13th birthday party, how close are you all really? He said it started off rough when he came home after doing his time, but they were both in a place where not only was she upset, but he was angry and upset. They were making exchanges with the kids at Chick-fil-A, and at this point, they've both evolved. He lets us know that the merging of families takes time, which I agree it does. And Phaedra lets us know because Andy asked her, about his wife, Sheree, I believe her name is. And Phaedra says she has no desire to have a relationship with her. I always find this to be sad when I feel like parents aren't working this out, especially when there's step parents involved, because I feel like it's a disservice to the kids to not figure out how to be cordial on their behalf. And this is coming from someone who has made her own attempts at this. I just feel like it requires a certain level of maturity on all sides. And to me, if I were Phaedra and I knew that my children were around this woman, I would want to be cordial with her. She doesn't seem to desire to do that, though. Andy points out that the last time he saw Apollo, he was in front of the garage with Phaedra, and it wasn't good. Apollo says, yeah, I was gone for 5.5 years. Toya and Simone are surprised by this. I don't understand why they're surprised because I'm sure the moment that they found out that Phaedra was joining the cast, that at some point the various ladies either looked him up or discussed what they knew about the situation. Phaedra says, when all that happened, I was pregnant with our second child. I was going to school. I was working at my law firm. I was working at a funeral home. There was a lot going on. This was her way of letting us know that she, despite people's claims, had nothing to do with the fraud or whatever Apollo got convicted for. She don't want any parts of Apollo's bad deeds. He says he is able now to go over to the house. He does not go inside, but he's able to come over there to pick them up. I think that is reasonable. You have to be cautious of who you allow in your space because negative energy is real. Andy then brings up Todd and Candy because at some point Apollo was blaming them, saying that they snitched on him for a storyline in Atlanta. I don't understand how that could even be a thing because he was storing his things in their garage. So why would they snitch on you? If the feds come around and they're asking different people different things, then of course they're going to have to say what happened. Even Cynthia Bailey, I believe, admitted at one point that she was questioned in regards to Apollo by the feds. I think it was her. I know there were some cast members that were questioned. I don't understand if Andy could take the time to bring up Candy and Todd, why not bring up what Phaedra did to Candy and Todd? This is the problem that I have. Don't bring this up and spend all this time talking about it when we don't even know if it's true. Because Apollo's sitting here trying to convince us that he met up with Todd the other day and Todd apologized for trying to use him in order to create a storyline. If Apollo lied about Kenya so many years ago trying to hit on him and seeing her in LA, then why wouldn't he lie about Todd apologizing to him? I do not think that that Todd apologized to him. They didn't need a storyline. They had plenty of things going on. What was going on with Apollo? They didn't need that to keep them on the show. Even now, Candy is off the show by choice. She did not get kicked off the show. So it's so interesting the way that they spin things. Anyway, Andy switches from talking about that to Cecil making a comment that Dr. G leveled up with Sweet Tea. He says, when it came out, my sis hit me up and said, what's going on? No love. So Quad, who we've been told by several of the cast members doesn't reached out to Cecil and called him, which makes me feel like there are times where Quad does reach out. He says, I've always loved Quad, but I also love Letitia. I feel like she's made him super happy and she's a better fit. That's what I meant by saying leveling up. Quad feels like T is a good fit because she can be more easily influenced by Greg because Sweet Tea is younger and she has a lot more life experience. I do not think that Quad is lying there. You all let me know what you think, because Dr. G had a problem with Quad's independence and he admitted it during several seasons of the show. The more independent she got, the more money she got when she started getting those Married to Medicine checks, when she started trying to venture and do things on her own, he struggled with that. Not So Sweet Tea says, we are a great fit. I chose Greg and he chose me. I don't think it's fair for Quad to make that comment because Quad doesn't know me. I don't know Not So Sweet Tea either, and I'm making that comment. Sweet Tea is the same woman that sat there with Heavenly while drinking, and once she got comfortable, let Heavenly know that sometimes Dr. G does both manipulative and controlling things, that he has controlling ways. So which is it? She even told us that he compared her to Quad. So don't sit here and say one thing when you're inebriated and they say another when you're sitting here trying to rub stuff in Quad's face. The whole Dr. G and the $4,000 situation come up again. Phaedra says to him, Dr. Gregory, when did I ask you for $4,000? Dr. Gregory made this a situation that it wasn't. He was so excited that Phaedra gave him a little bit of time that he had to make it seem like it was more than what it was. And listening to him on this reminded me of how pathetic he is. She rejected him, and him being the little infantile person that he is at times, he flipped the script. He says, Phaedra, when I met you, I was trying to pursue you because I was very taken by you. You explained to me back in 2002, when I was, just getting bored, finishing my boards and stuff, that you work hard to be where you're at. And you spend $4,000 on yourself a month. So if you were to get into a relationship, you would want someone who could do the same for you. When I heard him say that, I said, that is not him asking. That is not her asking for $4,000. That is her telling you her expectations. He says, if that's what your standard was, that was your standard. In retrospect, I should have lied. Then we could have gotten together and you would have just never known. And he's laughing about it and smirking about it, but he was bothered and he's really sitting there. I think he was really contemplating this. And as he's saying it, his wife is sitting in front of him and she's listening to him go on and on about Phaedra, and you can see she's getting annoyed by it. He says, I took you to Roy's. Phaedra doesn't even remember what Roy's is. She has to be remembered by some of the cast that it was this fancy restaurant, a nice restaurant that was around. Toya says, Phaedra, just say I wasn't that into you. Phaedra then gets him to admit that they never had a romantic moment. Apollo says, so she basically told you that if you were to date her, these were her expectations. And he says, yes. Eugene at some point says the same thing. Apollo then says, I was able to meet her expectations in many ways. Yes, Apollo was able to do that. But my question was he able to do that in a legal way? Because to my knowledge, at that time, Apollo was making money the wrong way because he got locked up. She forgave him. They got back together and then he got locked up again. See, I think that Phaedra thought that once they were on this show, that Apollo would be able to establish himself in whatever field he was working in, and that would bring him additional clientele. And instead, because he was already involved in criminal activity, he just kept doing it. That's my thoughts. You all tell me yours. They then get to talking about Eugene and Toya, and if Toya would have dated him in high school. And Quad says that there was a time where Toya said that at first she thought that he was a nurse and she didn't really want to date him. But Eugene cuts it all off, and Eugene says, you can say whatever you want to say about me and Toya. The bottom line is we're together. I knew who she was beforehand. I knew how she talked to me. I signed up for it and I like it. And he continues to enjoy it. And as far as I'm concerned, he can continue to like it because me personally, it wouldn't work for me, but it works for them. He even takes the time to, that's the end of that. Andy then takes time to check on Dr. Greg because in the previous episode, Dr. Greg was concerned about his mental health once he be in Quad's presence. And I wanted to know if they checked on Quad's mental when they decided to have not only him come back to the show, but his soon-to-be wife at the time. Dr. Greg talks about the trauma and the toxicity. And Quad says, I think that was on both sides. The way that the camera is angled, I couldn't tell if he was looking at Quad or away from Quad, but there were times where he seemed to be uncomfortable. She said he knew when he decided that he was going to rejoin this show that I was here. And he made a conscious decision to still join. Exactly. They thought that they were going to be able to come to this show to make Quad uncomfortable when what happened was Quad made them uncomfortable. He went on with this whole soliloquy about Phaedra and how he had a few friendly dates with her back in 2002, and then he twisted it to both of his wives when he explained the situation and all that other stuff. And he went on and on and on and on and on about Phaedra, even on this episode. And I just sit here and I'm like, okay, if he would do that and twist things like that when it came to Phaedra, imagine how he's twisted things when it's come to Quad. Because you see, nobody on this show addressed that. The men don't hold him accountable, and neither do the women. It seems like they're willing to protect Dr. G more than they are Quad. So if he did all of that for somebody that he was platonic with, imagine what he's done to Quad. You know, the one who wouldn't wait on him hand and foot, the one who decided to become independent, the one who spoke of some of the acts of violence that were committed towards one another, the one that was not willing to bear his child. There's a lot of resentment there. They then ask about Dr. G getting a prenup, and he says he did not get the prenup that Phaedra requested because he has a very strong feeling about his new wife. Sweet Tea says they're in it for the long haul, and Quad says, I'm not so sure. Lord, I said, good luck. Because you sitting there trying to act like Not So Sweet Tea is just this gem. Don't do that to Quad, because Quad was a gem too. Yeah, y'all had your issues, but at some point you loved her enough to marry her. So don't sit there and keep trying to throw this woman in her face like Quad isn't good too, because he's gonna do it more. Quad apologizes for her false accusations towards Dr. Jean last year. They then show a clip of Phaedra saying, had she been in this group, that her past marriage may have turned out differently. I don't know why she keeps saying that. The other people weren't encouraging her to leave Apollo. They were trying to get her to work with him. She's the one that chose to leave. But we're going to keep acting like the people on the other show are so bad and that Phaedra was good and that Phaedra wasn't doing cunning things and blocking alcohol permits and things of that nature and lying on her friend that she was in her wedding, all because she was upset with how that friend and her husband were supporting Apollo. Got it. Andy is about to ask a question about Heavenly's response to Simone when finding out that the trip was in Hilton Head. And Heavenly says, Simone, I never said you were being malicious. Before you start yelling at me, I never said that you were being malicious. I just felt like you weren't hearing Jackie. I said, talk to Jackie and listen to her, because Simone, you're hard-headed, Simone. Simone, you're hard-headed. Jackie needs to speak up more. Simone says, I text Jackie when I saw... Let me stop. She says, I text Jackie when I saw her face. She's yelling, mind you. I don't need to hear from you. This is my friend before this show. This has been my friend since the 90s. And on and on and on. Jackie is the problem, because I'm sure Jackie at times has relayed certain things to Heavenly, but Jackie allows for people to be her mouthpiece. I know that we like Dr. Jackie, but I'm seeing more and more how Jackie will have opinions on certain things, and Jackie sits there looking all docile and demure, like she hasn't done or said anything, when I'm sure she said certain things. Simone says, if you feel like I'm wrong, guys, let me know. So Dr. Alicia says, I just feel like once you knew that your friend had a problem with it, that the location should have changed. We weren't doing anything there that we couldn't do anywhere else. But Simone, who told the group to let them know, let her know if she's saying too much or doing too much, tells Dr. Alicia she doesn't want to hear from her. Jackie says, Heavenly is a grown woman and I can't tell her what to say. Simone says, I'm telling you, it's putting a damper in my relationship with you when she butts in. I don't know where these voices are coming from. So what about the other people that butt in? Why is just Heavenly, even though Heavenly needs to be quiet, and Heavenly, I feel like if Heavenly would not say anything, then it wouldn't give Simone anything to have the issue with her. But I'm going to say something else about that. Because other people say things and they interject, and Simone has interjected plenty of times. But for whatever reason, Heavenly can't do it to her when it comes to Jackie. And I'm going to tell y'all what I think, and y'all tell me what you think. I think Simone is mad at Jackie. I think that Simone is mad that her relationship with Jackie is not where it used to be, and that she has allowed Heavenly to be someone that she now leans on and not her. Because Heavenly and Jackie interact, talk, communicate, go out. They do a lot of things with each other. Whereas it seems like Simone is now relying more on Toya because at a time she didn't have Jackie. She says, Jackie, you and I have history that doubles the time on this platform. Jackie says, I know. She says, I saw you were mad, which is why I reached out to you. And and that's what I did. And Jackie says, I didn't have to tell you, Simone, you're right, because you saw it on my face. Jackie is the problem. Because if Jackie were to tell Heavenly to mind her business, because of how high Heavenly regards Dr. Jackie, I think Heavenly would listen. Because there are times when Heavenly's speaking and Heavenly looks to Dr. Jackie. She looks at Dr. Jackie more sometimes when she was turning back to look at her daddy, who was sitting right behind her. Sweet Tea feels like she shouldn't have to empathize with, because they talk about, Sweet Tea's problems with Jackie and whatever else. And she says she shouldn't have to empathize with something that happened 7 years ago to Jackie when things are currently happening to Sweet Tea right now. You signed up for the show. I don't feel bad for Sweet Tea. I just got to be honest. I don't, because Sweet Tea says some stuff too. Sweet Tea did some things too. And you came onto the show where this group of people were previously cool with another woman in hopes that you would push her out. We talk about Kima again. And Toya says, as long as Alicia's needs are being met and that's what works for her, then that's what works. Alicia says, my needs are being met. I never complain about my husband's penis size. When she said it, I was like, and Dr. Eugene looked like he was bothered. But Dr. Eugene lightened up the situation. I don't understand why she said it, because that's not what they were talking about. And Toya was actually being fair. Toya says, nobody ever asked about it. Eugene says, I'm going to put it to rest and I'm going to whip it out. They laugh it off. Andy says, come on, Eugene. I'm not talking about anymore about the Kima and Dr. Alicia situation. We did enough about it. Bottom line is, she supposedly doesn't care. And you talking about bringing up the occupation is yet another reason why she doesn't perform oral, and the aggressive oral trauma and all that other stuff that they see as surgeons and stuff like that. I don't care about that either. They don't do it. That's their business. Like Dr. Damon said, if you don't want to answer a question, you can say it's none of your business. They show clips over the last 10 years. We see the highs and lows. Simone thanks Andy for putting up with her loud moments. Quaz says seeing some of that stuff was hard to watch, especially the way things were with her ex. Greg says he has a lot of regret. He says, I want to be happy, and I know that she wants to be happy. Talking about Quad. Then he says, I have a beautiful wife. I have an outgoing wife. I have an outstanding wife. And Tisha's like, with everything that he says, I have a wife that's fun. I have a wife that likes to cook. Quad says, well, you keep one of them. And you see Curtis and Phaedra laughing, because it's true. Everything that he just said about Sweet Tea also describes Quad. Maybe she's not as, I don't know, understanding when it comes to certain things, but everything that she said, you can't say Quad wasn't supportive. Quad is the one who encouraged you to go on your own practice. We saw in that season where Quad was the one that came to the office and set it up and asked you what you would like and recommended plants and colors and all those other things. So let's not act like she was not supporting you. Andy says, is there hope for Heavenly and Sweet Tea? Sweet Tea says, I don't know, because the tweets and the disrespectful stuff over the past couple of months is rough. She says, you've been talking ish, and you took a Hippocratic oath, and you're a doctor, and you're my doctor. And Heavenly says, I didn't say anything about you being a patient of mine. Not so. Sweet Tea says, Heavenly, shut the F up. Heavenly says, you shut the F up. They go back and forth. Heavenly says, you don't want none. Sweet Tea says, I'll lay her out. Heavenly says, do it, because Jackie's going to stand up this time and she's going to beat your ass. I said, Heavenly does not take a lot of this seriously. I'm about to choke. Heavenly does this for fun. Heavenly does a lot of mess on the internet that I don't agree with, but this is entertaining to Heavenly. It just is. The cast laughs. In the 10 years, Jackie sees them in next 10 years, because they're asked, where do you see yourself in 10 years? She sees them on their next couples trips. Then we see the guys dismissed. Heavenly says, we've been talking about, she's talking to Jackie because they're sitting beside each other. She's like, we've been talking about this thing and we've already talked about it. And she keeps bringing it back up. Jackie says, but you keep shutting it down though. And I said, that's what Jackie does. Jackie encourages Heavenly. She does. And I think a lot of people miss it, and you all can tell me what you think, but I think she encourages some of Heavenly's mess. We got a clip of the moment where shade was thrown. I said it before, if you don't tell me about my problem areas, because they show the clip of Sweetie in her wedding dress and them talking about how she looked in the dress and how her butt looked flat and all those other things. If you don't tell me about my problem areas, you aren't my friend. To me, that's what friends do. Sweetie says, in a world full of Megan Thee Stallions, I am the Lamb of God. And I said, girl, no, you practiced that and that just didn't land. We get Sweetie saying that unlike a lot of the cast, she's not nipped, sucked, and tucked like a lot of them are. Annie then asks them what they've done. Toya says she got her abs and boobs done. Simone had a tummy tuck. Jackie had a double mastectomy. Heavenly said, I had a tummy tuck and a lap band. I've done everything I needed to do, and I'm still hungry. They then read something that was read off by one of the people tweeting that says maybe instead of bullying Sweetie that they should slip her the number to the doctor who did Quad's butt. And I said, okay, this person obviously hasn't watched the show, because we've all known for years that Quad's butt is natural. We've seen her do all types of workouts to maintain her shape. Quad makes it clear that they would never be able to find the number for that, because that body is presented by Jesus and gifted to her through her mother. The ladies joke around. Heavenly says overall she's in a much better place with a lot of the ladies. Simone takes time to remind Quad that if she doesn't get anything else from this, she needs to listen to one of the things that Phaedra said, which is Phaedra talked about the sisterhood, and she needs to make sure that she stays in touch, and she hopes that they will be able to forge something new and actually remain connected. Sweetie feels like she enjoyed her friendship with some of the ladies, with Simone and Toya and Phaedra and Dr. Alicia. So just say you enjoyed your friendship with everybody but Heavenly and Quad. There was no reason for her to do it like that. But that goes back to how a lot of these ladies at times are childish. Dr. Alicia learned that Heavenly is always going to be a clown. Simone is going to talk above the normal range. She appreciates Phaedra's sisterhood. Phaedra is happy that the ladies accepted her and that she was able to know all of them as they are currently. She said she came in cool. She made sure she didn't come in hot. Toya says she's learning that it's better to not live in the past, because when they bring up things that are hurtful, that it tears them apart as a group. And I actually agree with that for the cast, but I am interested in seeing how Toya navigates Quad next season, because I feel like if Toya gets to the point where she can accept Quad, then I feel like Simone will fall in line. Simone showed me something about herself last one. Jackie says that these are amazing women, and she would like to see them grow in friendship that involves loyalty, values, dependability, consistency, and communication. She then tells Quad she wants action, and she needs to see that from her. I don't like how they keep pinpointing Quad like the other ladies in this group don't need to work on things, and like Quad owes them something. You all need to do something too. Quad doesn't have to bend the knee, and I'm tired of them acting like she does. Quad, sign your contract and make sure that you put in there that they can't do like what they did to you last time. They're not allowed to vote you off any island. They toast to 10 years of friendship with wine instead of liquor, because they're offered both and they all pick wine. And that's the end. And I'm so glad that, that's the end of this. Mondays are kind of interesting. I don't know what it is about my upload on Mondays, but like I already did Real Housewives of Potomac, and it's probably going to finish uploading after this, because that's what happened last time. I'm interested in seeing. Thank you all so much for joining me this season. I know there are some of you that only watch like this content. I have other things on my channel. Go ahead and take a look at it. I have stuff of me reading books. I have movie time now. My next one is going to be She-Devil. It's an old movie, but I'm going to do it. And we're just going to go from there. If you have not done so already, please like the video, leave your comment, and subscribe. Until next time.